Hello and welcome to Module 2, Images and Multimedia Files. The reason this is called Multimedia Files, we're really mainly focusing on still images, but we are going to touch on some animations through the form of animated GIF. But you're welcome to explore other types of multimedia in the form of video and talk about that in the discussion forum. In Module 2, the first assignment you have is Homework 1 File Formats, and you're going to submit that in the Discussion 2 forum, and then you're going to do your readings and watch the video and respond to that and post in Discussion 2. The next assignment is Homework 2, and where you're going to create an animated GIF, and you're also going to post that in the Discussion forum in Discussion 3. For now, I want to go ahead and open up Photoshop. I'm in Photoshop CC 2018, so I'm still in 2018 on my desktop, but I will be accessing Photoshop 2019 as well. I have an image opened up here, and usually when you take a photo, it's going to probably be in the JPEG compressed format, and so I have an image here that's saved in the JPEG format. You can see that up here. You can go to Image, Image Mode, and check to make sure that it's RGB. Usually it's automatically saved as RGB, but if not, you want to change it to RGB because we're in the RGB gamut for web colors. We would be using CMYK for print, but for RGB we have a larger color gamut, so that's great because we have more colors to use. Then you want to check under Image, Image Size. And here we can find out a lot of information about our image. So the image size is 1.17 megabytes. It's 640 pixels. If we want to know what it is in inches, we can switch to inches and see that it's about 8.9 inches square inches. And the resolution usually at default is saved at 72 ppi, which is pixels per inch. So don't be confused between ppi and DPI. DPI is dots per inch, and that's used for printers. So we're working with pixels per inch. I want to uncheck resample. What resample does is it allows you to, if you're making an image larger or smaller. You never really can make an image smaller with, larger, excuse me. You can always make it smaller, but you can't make it larger without losing resolution. In print, what we're using for web is primarily raster images that are pixel based. So we're not going to really mess with vector graphics. If you needed to save like a logo or something as a vector, you'd have to save it as an SVG, a scalable vector graphic for web. And that's the only vector format you can save and upload to a web. But we're not going to go into that. That's just kind of FYI. Mainly we're looking at raster pixel-based images. The image resolution only affects the size of the image when printed. So what you're looking on the screen, it doesn't matter if it's 72 ppi or 300 ppi. It's going to look the same on your whatever screen you're looking at. It's going to be the resolution of your screen. So a simple calculation is to look at the screen width in pixels. So if I look at my particular Mac, the desktop display tells me here that the width in pixels is 1920 and the width in, the height is 1080 pixels. So if I were to do that into this mathematical equation, I would put 1920 over the width of the monitor, and I could get out my ruler and actually measure that out in inches, and that gives me my screen resolution. So I've done that already, and my resolution is pretty close to 100 ppi. So read that article, The 72 ppi Myth, to find out why I like to save in 96 pixels per inch rather than 72. So I'm going to go back to image size and uncheck resample because I don't want to add pixels that aren't there. I'm going to change my resolution to 96 pixels per inch. And then you can see my image size stays the same, but my width and the height decrease. Because my resolution goes up, the dimensions are going to go down. And that's the way it should be. So that's correct. So don't check resample when you're trying to make your resolution higher. So now though, I want to make my file size a little bit smaller, so even though the resolution doesn't matter the way that we view it on web, what matters is the file size. So we don't want to upload 300 ppi images if we don't need to, if they're just going to look up here on a 96 ppi screen, for example. We can reduce our file size so that we don't have a lot of load time, so we can decrease our load time. I'm going to go ahead and switch, and I have to check resample to switch to pixels. So we're always working in pixels for web. And I just want to decrease this to about half the size. I want to make it 340 pixels instead of 640. And then click OK. And then I can save this by going to File, Save As. And I can save this onto my folder for this class. So if I go to the desktop, I've got a WIP folder, and you can name it whatever you want, but all your project files for this class can be saved in that folder. Within that folder, I have a Module2 folder, so I'm going to save this JPEG image that's been resized into that folder. Now I want to keep the same pixel size, but I want to save it in two other image formats for web. I want to go to File, Save As, and I want to select CompuServe GIF this time. And if you want to hear how the person who invented the GIF pronounces it, you can watch the video clip on the Module 2 section of our course page. There's a lot of controversy on how it's pronounced, so I'm just going to pronounce it this way. I'm going to go ahead and save that in the same folder and click OK to save it. Then I want to go back to Save As and now save it as the PNG format. And then I can open up all three versions so that I can view them. Simultaneously. And to do that, I can go up to Window, Arrange, Tile All Vertically, and now I can see all three image formats at the same time. And this is how they will appear when you post it on As You Learn. If you look closely in this red area, you can see some subtle variations from the dark red to the light red. So in the GIF, it's really obvious that you lose some of the color variations, where you get the color variations back in the JPEG and even in the PNG. So now I've got all these three versions saved. I'm going to go ahead and go to As You Learn. Go to Module 2. Always go to the Start Here page, and then it's linked to this reading assignment. It's linked to the Homework 1 assignment sheet. This one is linked as a PDF, but you can click on the grade images to view the video, follow the instructions, and then you're going to post it in discussion 2. Here's the rubric, the grading. So now I'm going to go back and see where I'm supposed to submit this assignment in discussion 2, video image response. And I can click on Add a New Discussion Topic. So here I find that the table format is the best way to submit our three images. If you click on the first arrow, you can expand your options and then click on the table option. I want to select 2 rows and 3 columns, and I don't want any borders. I'm going to create my table here. Click on the first, this is just for a header, but I want to click on my first row, and then I can click on Image and Browse and choose the file that's saved on my desktop folder in Module 2, and it doesn't really matter which order as long as they're labeled. I'm going to go ahead and upload the file, and make sure you include a description for screen readers for those who are visually impaired. And I'm going to keep it at the size that I saved it at in Photoshop. Then I want to go to the second row and label it. So this is my GIF version. I'm going to center that, and then go to the next row and place the next image format. And look back on the assignment to identify which format you think is most appropriate for your peer's image. So if it's a photograph with a lot of color, which image format do you think would be best for that type of image, if it's a logo type, a flat color. So again, that's going to be after you do the readings, and then you'll know how to respond to that. Also, make sure that you comment on the beginning graphic design video or the reading, 72 PPI myth. Then submit your comments with your images, and then respond to another peer's post for 1 point. So that is homework 1, and then I will talk more about any questions that you have or about the next assignment in the Zoom video meeting.